Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive.
Yeah.
And today, we're going to be talking about social stories,
Okay.
which are really interesting because they can be used for so many different things. We
Right.
see them a lot in our sources talking about helping kids with autism navigate social situations, but it
Interesting.
seems like they could also be used for just about anything. Like we have sources here on preschoolers and
Hmm.
behavior management and teens and making friends and
Absolutely. And I think what's fascinating about social stories is that they tap into a very fundamental human element of how we learn,
yeah,
which is through narrative, right? When
yeah.
we take information and we package it in the form of a story,
It becomes more real.
it becomes more engaging, it becomes easier to process.
So it's not just like a set of instructions, then it's
Right.
creating a narrative that pulls the child in.
Exactly. And,
Yeah.
and a really critical piece of this is that it's not just a generic story.
Right.
But
Yeah.
we're talking about personalized stories.
Oh.
So it's not even just using the child's name in the story, although that's a piece of it, but it's weaving in their specific interests,
Right.
their challenges, even their, favorite characters,
Yeah. Okay.
into the story so that it becomes uniquely relevant to them and their world.
So it's like we're equipping them with a special set of tools to use to navigate social situations.
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
If we think about children who particularly struggle with
Yeah.
social cues or understanding unwritten rules,
Right.
this provides them with that roadmap, so to speak,
Yeah.
for how to behave in different situations.
So in our sources, they also talk about the importance of visuals,
Yes.
especially for kids with autism.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, this is because many autistic children are visual thinkers.
Okay.
So they process information much more effectively
Uh-huh.
through images than through words alone. So by incorporating illustrations, photos, even real-life objects into the story, we can significantly enhance their understanding and their ability to remember that information.
Got it. So it's not just making it prettier or anything like that. It's actually tapping into a different way of learning.
Exactly. And this is, particularly important when we're describing specific actions or steps. So, for example, if we're teaching a child how to wash their hands, we might include a series of pictures demonstrating each step of the process.
Okay.
That makes it very concrete, very easy to follow.
So our sources also talk about the importance of using a positive tone and focusing on desired behaviors.
Yeah.
So it's not about scolding or correcting mistakes. It's more about,
Absolutely. We want to create a sense of empowerment and encouragement.
okay.
So instead of saying, don't run in the hallway, we might say, when we're inside, we use our walking feet.
Oh, that's a good example. Yeah.
It frames the behavior in a positive light
Yeah.
and highlights the desired action.
So it's teaching skills, not just
Right.
pointing out what not to do.
Exactly. And I think another critical element here is repetition. So reading this social story multiple times, especially before encountering that actual situation, helps to solidify those desired behaviors and those responses.
Right. It's like rehearsing.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
like rehearsing a script
Yeah.
before a big performance.
Okay.
And so, this repeated exposure allows the child to internalize the information and then feel much more prepared when they actually face that scenario in real life.
So speaking of practice, our sources mention role-playing
Yeah.
as a valuable tool as well. Can you talk a little more about that?
Absolutely. So role-playing allows children to practice those social skills
Okay.
in a safe and controlled environment.
Yeah.
It's like a dress rehearsal
Mm-hmm.
for those real-life interactions.
Makes sense.
So, for example, if we're teaching a child how to ask for help, we might act out different scenarios together,
Okay.
giving them a chance to try out different phrases and responses.
So it makes it a little more engaging too, instead of just
Yeah.
reading something.
And it allows us to provide feedback and guidance in real time to help the child refine those skills and build confidence.
So we have this really great template
Yes.
in our sources that shows how we can get creative with social stories.
Absolutely. And this one I find particularly clever because it incorporates a positive role model
Okay.
to make the learning more engaging.
Interesting.
So it's the Superheroes Manage Screen Time template.
Oh, I like that.
So the template starts by setting the scene, very calmly.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds the child that there are, different activities throughout the day.
Yeah.
Some of them include screen time,
Right.
and then some of them include other fun things.
So creating that structure.
Yes, creating that sense of balance and structure.
Okay.
And then it moves on to explaining why screen time management matters.
Okay.
And it connects it to the child's experience.
Gotcha.
So it'll say things like, too much screen time can make us feel tired.
Right.
Or, It can be hard to focus on other things if we've been on screens for too long.
So we're giving them reasons behind it, not just...
Exactly. And this is where the superhero piece comes in.
Okay.
So it might say something like, even superheroes take breaks from screens to rest and recharge.
I like that.
Or superheroes know that it's important to balance their screen time with other activities.
So we're tying it into something that they admire and
Right,
want to
so-
be like.
And then we move on to the step-by-step instructions
Okay.
for turning off the tablet when it's time.
And I'm guessing visuals are important here as well.
Absolutely. The template emphasizes using simple images to support each step.
Yeah.
Further enhancing the understanding.
Okay.
So, for example, we might have a picture of the child reaching for the tablet, and then a picture of them pressing the power button, and then finally a picture of the tablet turned off.
It's just that sequence.
It's a very clear visual sequence.
I like it. And then what?
And then it offers alternative activities.
Okay.
Like playing with toys or reading a book or going outside,
Mm-hmm.
reminding the child that there are these other fun options available.
Right.
And then it ends on a positive note, reinforcing the child's capability
Okay.
by saying things like, you are strong and smart, and you can always choose to have fun with different activities.
That's nice. I like that it's very empowering.
Empowering, exactly.
Yeah. So this template is really great. I mean, we've only talked about screen time, but it seems like it could be used for
Oh, absolutely.
a lot of different things.
This is a framework, really,
Yeah.
that can be applied to any situation.
So thinking about social stories, then, we've talked about the importance of visuals and repetition and personalizing it and positive reinforcement.
Mm-hmm.
What else should we be thinking about when we create these? And
Well, I think one thing that often gets overlooked
okay.
is the importance of collaboration.
Oh, okay.
It's crucial to involve the child in the process as much as possible.
Okay.
Ask for their input, listen to their feedback, and make adjustments based on their needs and preferences.
So it's not just us deciding what they need. It's
Exactly. This is their story.
right. It's working with them to,
It's a collaborative effort.
yeah.
And I think that piece is really key to making sure that these are truly effective and empowering.
This has been really interesting. I'm already starting to think about all the different ways that we can use social stories and how effective they can be
Yeah.
in supporting kids' development.
Absolutely.
So we're going to be talking about how social stories can be tailored for
Sure.
specific challenges like anxiety and behavior management,
Okay.
sensory processing,
Sounds good.
all those different, talking about how social stories can be tailored for specific challenges.
Right.
And one thing we see in our sources a lot is using them for behavior management.
Yes.
So what would that look like?
So let's imagine a child who constantly interrupts others,
Okay.
right? Instead of simply telling them, don't interrupt. A social story could gently explain, why interrupting is disruptive,
Right.
how it makes other people feel when they're interrupted, and then provide alternative ways to get attention.
So instead of just like saying, don't do this,
Right.
it's giving them the reason behind it and why.
Exactly. And it empowers them with strategies,
Right.
like raising their hand or waiting for a pause in the conversation.
It's giving them a new set of tools to use.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
It's about building empathy and promoting positive interactions.
Another area where I see this a lot in our sources is managing anxiety. We touched on this briefly before, but let's dive a little deeper.
Sure.
I'm seeing things here like going to the doctors or starting school even.
So let's say a child is anxious about going to the dentist.
Okay.
A social story could walk them through each step of that experience.
Okay.
We could include visuals of the dentist's office, the friendly staff, maybe even a picture of themselves smiling after a successful checkup.
And I'm guessing the visuals are especially important there because it could be a scary situation for a kid, especially if they've never been.
Especially if it's a new experience.
Yeah.
And there can be a lot of sensory input there that can be overwhelming.
Right. So we're really preparing them for that.
We're preparing them and we're presenting it in a positive light
Yeah.
to help reduce that anxiety and build confidence.
So our sources also talk about using social stories for sensory processing challenges,
Yes.
which seems particularly important for kids with autism.
Absolutely. Many autistic children experience sensory sensitivities.
Right.
So, for example, a child who's sensitive to loud noises might benefit from a social story about going to a birthday party.
Okay.
We could prepare them for the sounds they might encounter, like music and laughter and popping balloons.
And give them some coping strategies.
Exactly. The story might suggest taking breaks in a quieter room or wearing noise-canceling headphones.
Yeah.
It's about empowering the child to manage their sensory experience
And participate.
and participate.
This reminds me of something else that I saw in the sources about emotional regulation,
Yes,
which we all struggle with,
absolutely.
especially as children.
Right.
So how can we use social stories for this?
So imagine a child who struggles with anger outbursts.
Okay.
A social story can help them identify the triggers that lead to those outbursts,
Okay.
like feeling frustrated or overwhelmed,
Yeah.
and then offer strategies for managing those emotions.
Like what would those be?
Things like taking deep breaths, counting to 10,
Mm.
expressing their feelings in words.
So it's like giving them that toolbox of strategies to use.
Exactly. It's giving them
Yeah.
a plan for how to respond in those moments.
So another thing that I see in our sources is using social stories to promote friendships and social skills. And I think this is so important because especially for kids who maybe are a little bit shy or unsure how to approach other kids, this could be really helpful.
Absolutely.
So how would that work?
So imagine a child who wants to join a game but doesn't know how to ask, right? A social story could provide step-by-step guidance on how to approach the group. Observe what they're doing, and then ask politely if they can join.
So it's almost like giving them a script to follow, which can really
In a way, yes.
help them to build that confidence.
Absolutely. And by providing these concrete examples and practicing those skills through role-playing,
Right.
we can help children build those genuine connections.
Yeah, and I think what's so great about all of this is it's not just for therapists or teachers.
Yeah.
This is something that parents can do at home, too.
Absolutely.
And there are tons of resources online.
Yes, the internet is a treasure trove of resources,
Yeah.
including free templates and examples of social stories for all sorts of situations.
So it's really accessible.
It's about making these valuable tools accessible to everyone.
So as we're wrapping up this part of our deep dive, we've really seen how versatile social stories are
Yes.
and how they can be adapted for all sorts of different situations and challenges.
Absolutely. They're not just stories. They're really blueprints
Yeah.
for understanding and navigating and thriving in the social world.
And anybody can use them.
And anyone can use them. And one area where social stories have really proven effective is school readiness.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
It's a big transition
This is a huge transition.
for kids.
Yeah.
So think about a child who is about to start kindergarten.
Okay.
A social story can gently introduce them to the classroom environment, the daily routines,
Yeah.
the expectations for behavior.
Yeah, and we could even use pictures of the actual classroom
Absolutely.
so that they know what to expect.
We could even incorporate photos of the teachers.
Right, make it even more specific.
So that those faces become familiar.
Yeah, it's like a little sneak peek.
It is. It's a sneak peek, and it helps to create that excitement
Yeah.
about starting school.
And transitions in general can be tough for a lot of kids.
Yes. Transitions can be really challenging.
Yeah, so I see in our sources too, we're talking about moving to a new house or a new sibling being born.
Right.
Or even going on vacation.
All those things can disrupt a child's routine.
Right, and kids thrive on predictability. So
Absolutely.
these social stories could really help.
Yes. They provide a roadmap for what to expect.
Yeah.
We can break down the transition step by step, explain why the change is happening, and offer coping strategies for any anxieties that might come up.
So we're not just talking about the practical stuff here, we're also talking about the emotional side of it.
That's right. It's about validating the child's feelings about the change.
So even if it's a positive change.
Even if his positive change can be difficult.
Right.
And so we want to acknowledge that
We're normalizing those feelings.
we're normalizing those feelings and helping the child feel understood and supported.
Yeah, so something else I see in our sources is using social stories for playtime. Now, playtime to me, I always think of that as like free expression.
It should be.
Yeah.
Playtime should be fun and spontaneous.
So how do social stories fit in there?
Well, for some children, especially those who struggle with social skills, playtime can actually be a source of anxiety and frustration.
Oh, that's right, because there are a lot of unwritten rules.
Exactly. There are a lot of unwritten rules and social cues that we just kind of take for granted.
Yeah, we don't even think about it.
But a social story can gently teach those unwritten rules.
Oh, okay.
So, for example, we might create a story about taking turns or sharing toys or dealing with disappointment when you don't win a game.
So it's like creating this framework for positive social interaction.
Right, exactly. And by practicing these skills through role-playing, we can help children feel more confident and successful in those interactions.
So are social stories just for kids who have certain challenges, or can they be used for any kid?
They can be beneficial for all kids. Absolutely.
Hmm.
They could be used to teach empathy, kindness, respect for others.
Oh, okay.
We can create stories about sharing or helping others or standing up to bullying.
So it's like incorporating these values into a format that they can easily connect with.
Exactly. And remember, it's not just about reading words on a page.
Yeah.
It's about bringing those stories to life
Mm-hmm.
through visuals, role-playing discussions,
Making it interact.
making it a fun and interactive experience.
So really anybody can use these.
Anybody can use them.
And they can be adapted for different ages
Yeah, absolutely. It's about tailoring the social story to the individual child.
This has been so interesting.
It has. It's been a great exploration.
Yeah, we've learned so much about social stories, and I feel like now I can really start to use these in my own life to help the kids around me.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I think that's the ultimate goal here.
Yeah, and I hope our listeners can too.
So think about the children in your lives.
Yeah.
What challenges do they face? How could a social story tailored to their needs help them navigate the world with more confidence and understanding?
It's been great talking about this with you,
Likewise.
and we'll see you next time for another deep dive.